of all places, Sweden would have been thought among a handful of least likely for this sort of thing. I think millions of American people saw him as a leader in the cause of peace. But I think our government may have been a little afraid of him because he was, you know, he had the courage and to speak out against U.S. foreign policies, and they don't like that.
He showed up on the wrong side of issues so frequently that he was not taken too seriously by some of the major governments of the world. That was my view. I think that when he provided sanctuary to the deserters and supported the North Vietnamese, I think that that was a case where he really started losing the respect of a lot of the world leaders, except in the East, of course. I'm sure he was a hero in the Kremlin.
För varje årtionde blir de politiska morden allt mer vanliga. Framstående personer mördas av politiska motståndare, främmande säkerhetstjänster, terrorister och enskilda personer. De flesta politiska morden har utförts i västvärlden och mest drabbat är USA. John Kennedy mördades och så gott som alla presidenter har utsatts för mordförsök. Vid politiska mord kommer ständigt samma frågor upp. Utländskt eller inhemskt mordmotiv. Konspiration eller en ensam förövare. Just de frågor som åter och återigen ställts i Sverige efter mordet på Olof Palme. Här ska vi se på mordet ur amerikansk synvinkel.
Svensk statsminister upplevt något liknande. Havannas flygplats José Martí, hundratusentals människor jublar när Kubas regeringschef Fidel Castro hälsar den svenska delegationen välkommen. Det första västerländska regeringsbesök någonsin på Kuba. Flaggspel, musik och talkörer med människomassor som väntat i timmar på att få möta den svenska gruppen.
Olof Palmes politiska kontakter och ställningstaganden hade kritiserats skarpt i USA. Stundtals så hårt att det spekulerats i om organisationer i USA skulle kunna ligga bakom mordet. Även Pinochets Chile hade rasat över Sverige och stödet till exilchilenare. I samband med den här utrikesresan försökte militärjuntans män mörda Palme. Ett andra mordförsök gjordes i Madrid 1975 under det spanska socialistpartiets kongress. På svenska utrikesdepartementet finns det här dokumentet, den chilenska hemliga polisens dödslista, med Olof Palme som ende utlänning. Den amerikanska agenten Michael Townley hade uppdraget att mörda Palme. I USA framträdde Olof Palme i FN, men blev aldrig officiellt inbjuden av någon president.
Doctors all over the world say that there is no cure for the effects of nuclear war. The only way is prevention. There is simply no alternative to international cooperation. Only through joint endeavors can we hope to move from common fear to common security.
Han drev frågor om fred och nedrustning, de små nationernas intressen mot de storas. De internationella uppdragen, till exempel Palmekommissionen och senare sexnationsinitiativet, gjorde honom också kontroversiell. 1980 fick Palme uppdraget att medla i kriget mellan Iran och Irak. Palme besökte krigsskådeplatserna. Både i Sverige och utomlands har medlingsverksamheten givit upphov till spekulationer om att Iran och svensk illegal vapenexport skulle utgöra motivet till mordet. Visste Olof Palme att USA illegalt och hemligt skickade vapen till Iran? Medhjälpare var staten Israel och ökända vapenhandlare. Överstelöjtnant Oliver North skötte med hjälp av CIA-agenter vapensändningarna. FNs fredssträvanden i Mellersta Östern bevärdigade han inte en tanke. Dagarna före Palmemordet var Oliver North på hemligt möte i Frankfurt för att skicka iväg ännu en sändning amerikanska robotar till Iran. Vinsten från vapenaffärerna skulle användas i kampen mot kommunismen i Nicaragua, bakom ryggen på kongressen. Ingenstans känner USA hotet från kommunismen så nära som från Nicaragua. Här förde USA ett hemligt krig genom att stödja de så kallade Contras mot sandinisterna, den lagliga regeringen.
Entre 1980 y el 4 de septiembre de 85, las fuerzas organizadas y dirigidas por la CIA han asesinado a 3.652 personas. Los nicaragüenses víctimas de la política terrorista norteamericana ascienden en su totalidad a 11.000 muertos y 5.000 heridos, 5.000 secuestrados y 250.000 de desplazados. Para un pequeño país como el nuestro, con apenas 3,5 millones de habitantes, esto representa un incalculable costo en pérdidas humanas y sufrimiento.
Muammar Gaddafi has plans for America. He's already threatened to strike at American citizens in their own streets. Gaddafi used to be far away, but now he sits on our doorstep, supplying arms and terrorist experts to the communists in Nicaragua, only 2 hours away from our borders, where training also comes from the PLO terrorists of Yasser Arafat. Here is terrorism we can do something about if we support the president on Nicaragua.
I Sverige hälsade Olof Palme Yasser Arafat välkommen som en nära vän. Palme besökte Nicaragua som förste västerländske statsminister. Och Nicaraguas president Daniel Ortega kom till Sverige. Sverige ger också bistånd till det sandinistiska Nicaragua.
The fledgling democracies of Central America cannot be expected to stand alone against this kind of concerted international communist effort. And let's make no mistake, this nation too is threatened.
Mr. Palme has not maintained a reputation for impartiality. He's instead acquired, he's joined a group, is thought of as the Jane Fonda of international politics, that is a controversialist and an anti-American controversialist.
Ja, Jane Fonda jag känner ju och det är en utmärkt person. Inte minst när det gäller att hålla sig i fysiskt trim. Ja, det är ju att vad jag har sagt om Nicaragua, det är att hävda folkrättens principer och de små nationernas rätt. Och det måste jag ju göra som statsminister säger. Det finns ingen som helst val. Och om det väcker irritation, det kan jag förstå, men jag kan ju trösta mig med att uppenbarligen en stor majoritet av det amerikanska folket har samma mening som jag.
Still wandering through the night. Now it's 10 years later, but it still keeps up the fight. In Ireland, in Lebanon, in Palestine, in Berkeley. And it hurts, hurts the hurt of the road and something down and body.
Gunners, ready on the right, ready on the left, ready on the firing line, sustained fire. Okay. Who took out Jane Fonda? I did. Boy, have I got a bunch of dummies on the line here. She was supposed to be the grand finale.
Här pågår en mässa. Den arrangeras av tidningen Soldier of Fortune. I översättning ungefär Legosoldaten. Hit kommer mer än 10 000 besökare. Tidningens publik tillhör USAs yttersta höger. Här är svensk utrikespolitik och Olof Palme som ett rött skynke.
But they can hit a 24-inch circle consistently at 1,000 yards, and with match grade ammo you can hit a content at 1,000 yards. So it's really nice.
Här träffas vapenfantaster men också legosoldater, CIA-folk och yrkesmilitärer. Det går bra att ge ett bidrag till föreningar som propagerar för varje amerikans rätt att bära vapen. Här finns de som slåss mot ryssarna i Afghanistan och mot sandinisterna i Nicaragua och utländska militärer från till exempel Argentina och Sydkorea.
We'll see you tonight and then tomorrow, and I know he's anxious to talk to you. It's good to see you.
Och så finns en massa människor som låtsas att de är med i krig.
Yeah, so that's the literature is long. Oh yeah.
Did you say this? Woolly pulleys, virgin wool, the shepherd was a eunuch, only $15.
Man säljer krigstroféer, vapen av alla slag och böcker om konsten att döda och hur man blir en professionell agent. Utanför mässhallen i öknen underhålls mässdeltagarna med krig.
Bill Flanagan, please come to the front expo table. Bill Flanagan.
We got a little kitchen knife that we sell to women for slicing their tomatoes. You guys might want to take note of the ladies that have these knives. If you guys got a knife you're particularly proud of, maybe your Al will get through one of them.
Maybe. Gives an opportunity to the conventioneers or readers of the magazine to interface with the editorial staff, which we feel is very valuable. And it serves as a meeting place for a lot of people to make contacts, make new friends, meet old ones. In fact, I think we have a number of conventioneers from Sweden here this year, which we're very pleased about, of course, our foreign participation.
What we do is we offer guerrilla training, and so all my instructors are full-tab qualified Green Berets, minimum 16 years in Special Forces, combat in at least 2 different geographic areas. Actually, over the last 3 years, most of my students have been Europeans, Swedes, Austrians, West German GSG-9, British SAS. This is as close to combat as you can get without actually, suffering some sort of damage. We use same training guidelines that we use in Special Forces.
Would you like one of these?
Yes, with your autograph.
Okay, what's your name?
Chris.
Well, law enforcement looks at it as incapacitation. They want to, if they have to shoot somebody, they want to incapacitate them immediately. And the belief is that a larger caliber bullet striking a human body will incapacitate it quicker than a smaller caliber bullet. So therefore you get this idea that bigger is better, in police circles.
Do you mind putting your name on it too? Okay, give me just your name and your membership.
This is the organization of General Singlaub. We help resistance movements wherever they are in the world fighting against totalitarian governments. And we are totally supported by donations. We receive no government grants, no scholarships, one by one, American citizens and others, helping those people that have found themselves at the hands of communist aggression.
In my view, the most important is the Nicaraguan one. It's not only the closest to the United States, it has a direct bearing on the security of the United States because the Soviets are establishing very important strategic bases there that are not for the use of the Nicaraguans, they're for the use of the Soviet armed forces. And this would make it very difficult for the United States to meet its commitment to NATO if the Soviets were occupying those naval and air bases right astride our sea lanes of communication to Europe. So that's the most important. I think another very important one is the Angola in Africa. I also believe that Mozambique is one that should be considered. Is not getting any support from the U.S. government at the present time, but I am working with them because I'm convinced that the Renamo forces are in fact democratic forces and that they have the support of the people, and the Frelimo forces in Mozambique do not have the support of the people, and they are obviously Marxist and are attempting to suppress the human rights of the people there.
Come on!
As a United States Senator from the state of Nevada, it's my pleasure to welcome you out here. And as also the United States Senator, it's a wonderful, wonderful feeling to be out of Washington and get with my type of people. I mean, you're my type of people. As Kay mentioned, I have been in Army intelligence. As a matter of fact, I serve on the Senate Intelligence Committee. I'm the only one ever who was trained as an agent and had service behind the Iron Curtain as an agent. And you know what military careers are all about. It only depends upon one thing, being at the right place at the right time. And I was very, very fortunate, and I'm very, very proud to be in the Army Intelligence Hall of Fame. Jack, General Singlaub is a great American, a great patriot. I wish we had more people like that in higher levels in government. He knows the situation. He knows the enemy. He's fighting a war in Washington, trying to keep our military strength up. Kay, it's great to be with you tonight. General, it's great to be with you. And it's great to welcome all of you to Nevada. Thanks.
take the brochures, fill your checks out now. I'm sure the general will stick around. And I never end any of my talks without quoting my favorite quote by one of the great freedom fighters of the United States of America, the country that all the freedom fighters around the world look to as the epitome of fighting democracies. When one of our men said, "Is life so dear, is peace so sweet, as to be traded for chains and slavery?" Almighty God, I do not know what other men may say, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death. That's Jack.
Den store idolen är generalen John Singlob. Han har varit i Vietnam för CIA, i Korea för FN och hos shahen i Iran. Han är ledande inom World Anti-Communist League, antikommunismens världsorganisation, förkortat WACL. Ett paraply för över 100 organisationer mot kommunism. WACL lever på pengar från extrema högerregimer. General Singlob blev ordförande 1984. WACL bildades 1967 här på Taiwan. Medlemmar var länder som Sydvietnam och Sydkorea, organisationer som Ustasja och gamla nazister. Vid bildandet var den moderate riksdagsmannen Birger Hagård närvarande.
There is a Swedish chapter of the World Anti-Communist League. There's been a great deal of turbulence there in Sweden with respect to who is the representative group. But there is a group of conservatives in Sweden who are definitely opposed to Soviet policies in that part of the world.
Svenskarna var inte med vid årets kongress i Genève. De var mest aktiva under Vietnamkriget. Europa får allt större plats i WACL, men mest betydelsefull är fortfarande general Singlob. Han har utåt sett gjort WACL mer rumsrent. Exilgrupper från idag socialistiska länder är framträdande, men nazisterna syns inte och den nya kvinnliga ordföranden förnekar allt samröre med högdiktaturer.
Una valutazione che non è stata condivisa dal migliaio di manifestanti che ha aderito all'appello a protestare lanciato da una trentina di organizzazioni politiche, sindacali e terzomondiste, per cui il congresso ginevrino è un oltraggio alla democrazia.
Svenska utrikesdepartementet har hemligstämplat ett dokument från USA som hävdar att WACL stod bakom mordet på Olof Palme. Det känner general Singlob till.
It was a typical disinformation operation that the KGB is behind it. They've accused me of running a coup d'etat in Fiji Islands and of being involved in coups in the Philippines. I've never even been in the Fiji Islands, you know. but I have been targeted, and so they try to create problems for me all over the world.
I think their power and influence is vastly overstated, but in a sense that might make them more extreme, more radical, and more desperate. They're not. There's also a closeness, sadly, to elements within our military. I think we have to recognize that. It's unfortunate, even dangerous, but they're not a major force at anything, and politically they're not a force at all.
I'd like to take this time to welcome you to the 9th Annual Soldier Fortune Convention. When this was started, we went to Columbia, Missouri. We didn't know whether it was going to be the first or the last, but we've made it 9 years. Introduce people at the front table. To my right is Dr. John Peters, Colonel Enrique Bermudez, his wife Elsa. The pretty girl next to Brown is Mary Jenkins. I'll spit this tobacco out. Colonel Brown, Major General Jack Singlaub to my left. To the general's left is General Safi from the Afghans. To his left is General Asil. He's now with the Afghan Mujahideen. He was formerly with the Afghan police prior to the Russian takeover of Afghanistan. David Isby, in-house, U.S. renowned Russian expert. Colonel Alex McCall, and Machine Gun Pete Kokalis.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is great honor to me on behalf of the Afghanistan freedom fighter and on behalf of friend of mine, Brigadier Asil, to be here with you and with the camouflage people here. There must be a military component to any struggle that is expected to increase freedom throughout the world. Do you honestly believe that the Soviets would be withdrawing from Afghanistan now because of some negotiations that took place in Geneva? Do you believe that the Sandinistas would have come to the negotiating table if this had been discussed in Managua between some striped-pantsed State Department employee and the Sandinistas? Of course not. They came to the negotiating table because they were losing their ass in combat.
As a humble token of our gratitude, I would like to present the Contra Cross to General Singlaub, Bob Brown, Ed Dearborn, John Paget.
Contras utmärkelser kan de här männen ta emot. Men helt öppet kan ingen förmedla vapen och soldater till Nicaragua. Det vore emot amerikansk lagstiftning. I de här kretsarna förespråkar man så kallad low intensity conflicts, alltså indirekt krigföring som i Nicaragua. Då slipper man risken för att den allmänna opinionen ska reagera negativt när amerikanska soldater dör, och man kan ändå nå sina syften, som att slå ner vänsterrörelser eller bereda marken för statskupper.
We have a mailing list of about 42,000 constantly, but we also have affiliates in 105 countries in the world, so we're pretty international in scope. These are actual Nicaraguan freedom fighters. These are not made-up people. This is our helicopter, our pilot. For example, I send this girl fingernail polish because she's so willing to be out there with a gun in her hand. Look, see, her name's Rebecca. And every one of these people are actual freedom fighters that we have had some personal relationship with in helping them.
I don't know why your government would be on the side of the people that are so repressive and taking away the human rights of the Nicaraguan people. It has no direct effect that I could determine, except that it gave them a great deal of prestige because they talk about it, and when they broadcast into the countryside the fact that Sweden is represented there, it helps them internally, and it's demoralizing to the resistance forces who listen to the radio coming out of Managua and hear these stories.
These guys use parachutes. We used to jump out without the chute. Really?
No, they use parachutes. Take a picture of my girl here, right here. Paracaidista, Guatemala, Mexico, United States.
It's primarily a military support organization. Most of our members are Vietnam vets. I've fought in Vietnam. I've instructed the Contras, as you would call them, in 1984 and 1985. I have no problems whatsoever with any type of support for the FDN freedom fighters of Nicaragua. Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras. That's where I get my information from. I don't read the liberal American press and expect to get anything but a one-sided view. And I don't really care what our politicians say or do. If it's not right, then I, as an American, have the right to do everything within my power to alleviate the problem. And that's exactly what we intend to do in Nicaragua. If the Congress cuts off aid, what they're going to see are a lot of Americans going down and volunteering. It's not a situation of mercenaries. It's a situation of fighting for what you believe in. And if the Congress won't stand up for Central America, then the people of this country will do it for them. They can take their laws, they can take their violations of neutrality, and they can put it where the sun doesn't shine, because we're going to be there.
Attention. All right. Are there any questions? We have a little flag. The Sendero Luminoso was captured by the Peruvian Army. And this particular flag, incidentally, was flying during the exercise, of the graduation exercise of the police special forces in their village, Mock Village. So this is a legitimate McCoy, and this, along with everything else we auction tonight, you will get a signed certificate of authorization. Okay, Sam, babe, it's all yours. Let's go. I can't see you. You're gonna have to holler. Should be all over the house like a fever. I like your attitude. I don't like the price, but we'll go. I got $100 bid. I want two. I got $100 bid. Give me two. Let's go. I got 100 bid. Give me two. Okay, that is. This is a Russian jumpsuit, authentic, genuine. I want 200 bucks to start to wear. Let's go. Yes, I got 200. I want a quarter. I got 200. I want a quarter. Where? Yes, I got 50. Thank you, sir. Give me 300. I got 250. I want 300. I'll take 75. Let's go.
Soviet steel pot from Afghanistan. It didn't do the guy inside it much good because we got it. Courtesy of Dave Isby, General Safi, and the rest of the lads. The guy who owned this thing got a battlefield promotion to the grade of ancestor and didn't need it anymore. So they scarfed it up, and we're going to unload it in case you want to keep warm at night. There's a little piece of paper on here that just came off it. Uncle Jack was playing with it and it came loose, but it's part of the program, and it does have the Russian writing on it. Only the very, very super-duper nasty elite people in the Soviet forces get to wear these funny things. It is a Soviet Navy petty officer's pea coat. So far as I know, it's about the only one floating around the free world. As you see, it's a rather snazzy item. They do rig their troops out fairly well if you don't look too closely at the quality. And it is something to reinforce your collection of unusual objects.
I got 300, give me a quarter. Yo, 3 1/4, now I want a half. I got 3 1/4, give me a half. 3 1/4 once, 3 1/4 twice. Sold. Okay, next.
the spirit of the bidding we've seen so far, we keep this up, and at next year's convention, I'm going to have a big glass jar here full of alcohol with Danny Ortega's head in it that we're going to be auctioning. But we'll be doing it in Managua.
Den här sortens böcker säljs på postorder genom tidningen Soldier of Fortune. Det är mycket om konsten att mörda och byta identitet och andra mindre rumsrena aktiviteter.
My research into the classified advertisements in Soldier of Fortune showed that for the first 10 years of publication, they published over 18,000 advertisements for materials one could order by mail. More than 2,000 were for personal services of a seemingly criminal nature. The advertisements carried such language as, "We'll go anywhere, do anything, except no assassinations in U.S." Others didn't rule out the prospect of assassinations in the U.S. and said such things as hunter-killer team available for hire anywhere, anytime, or carried language such as contracts sought $20,000. We know for a fact that such advertisements did result in 5 murders for hire, 12 attempted murders of 3 persons who survived those attempts, 8 plots to murder that were interrupted before anyone was harmed physically, a bomb on an aircraft carrying over 150 passengers and crew that thankfully detonated while the plane was on the ground and no one was killed, 3 plots to break people out of prison, one of which was very elaborate and included a helicopter rescue from the prison, and a variety of other things such as a kidnapping with extortion, some suicides, attempts to smuggle drugs, and so on. Those are only the cases that became reported in the newspaper, and no one knows how many other crimes there may be that have never been reported in the press, even though they're solved, or the even larger number of ones that have never been solved because no one's been caught. It would not be surprising if some of the ones who did the advertising are here at the convention. In fact, I'd be quite sure of it. But it would be a mistake to think that most of the people at the convention had anything to do with such activity. I met quite a few normal people who had a fascination and an interest in all this. I was impressed by that. Of course, I did meet some people who were not normal. And it concerns me that they gravitate to this literature and what this magazine represents. Unfortunately, people who are unstable, people who are obsessed with violence and weapons, will always gravitate toward someone who tells them the world is a dangerous place, you have to protect yourself by being better armed than the next guy, it is your duty to kill anyone who tries to bring communism to the West, it is your duty to protect America and liberty and justice by your own terms without anyone telling you how to do it as a free agent armed to the teeth. That's not quite the same as patriotism.
There's one Brit that still thinks he's a Waterloo. You can't take it out of those Brits, folks. They're all alike. Hey, nice job. You can't change it. Look at this. They've neutralized the enemy. Look out! Look out! There's a mass wave attack!
Långt bort, men ändå närmare det svenska folkhemmet än man kunde tro. Vid en norsk fjord ligger faktiskt en nordisk agentur för tidningen Soldier of Fortune. Det kommer också snart att bli gruppresor med skandinaver till Soldier of Fortunes sammankomster.
Vi skulle arrangera en tur i år, men vi fick de nødvendige papirer for å kunne distribuere det videre for sent. Men vi er blitt lovet at vi skal få det tidsnok til neste SOF Convention. Det vil være flere svensker enn nordmenn, vil jeg tro, når vi kommer ordentlig i gang, som vi deltar. Responsen vi fikk på de 32 000 katalogene vi sendte ut var jo formidabel. Den var udelt positiv. Vi vil annonsere på Sky Channel og Super Channel for våre bøker og vår katalog for å nå et bredere marked. Den er vel den desiderte bestselleren, Improvised Explosives, som forteller om sprenglegemer, hvordan de er konstruert og hvordan de fungerer. Så har vi bøker om såkalt lockpicking. Det er hvordan du konstruerer låses med verktøy og hvordan de utøver sitt yrke. Vi har bøker om med amerikanske SWAT-team, tilsvarende norske antiterrortroppen, som forteller om deres arbeidsmetoder og hvordan de går frem i forskjellige operasjoner. Vi har rene våpenbøker. Denne for eksempel som er utdelt til det amerikanske forsvaret, så de skal vite hvilken våpen de vil møte i en eventuell konfliktsituasjon. Vi har jo per i dag 350 forskjellige titler som alle går i samme gate. Og i løpet av våren så vil det være oppe i 700 titler av samme type. Inkludert videoer, så vi går på en vel 400 videotitlar.
Soldier of Fortune säljs också i några svenska tidningskiosker. Man hoppas på läsare bland de svenskar som har tillgång till handeldvapen, och de är över 1 miljon. Hur starkt kan tidningen och allt kring den påverka enskilda människor att hävda sina övertygelser med hjälp av vapen? Skulle det kunna gå så långt som till politiska mord? Tidningsledningen äger de professionella kunskaperna om yrkesmördande. Det närstående Wackel vet allt om politiska mordkomplotter. Och så här ser deras analys av Palmemordet ut.
I don't think that he had done enough to disrupt any one side's activities to warrant assassinating him. You know, you run the risk of creating a martyr when you assassinate someone, and I think that's one of the reasons that they have not made a recent attempt on Oliver North, because he's a hero in the minds of the American people, and if Abu Nidal's threat were to be carried out, he would become a martyr, and everything that Abu Nidal and the PLO stand for would be discredited. And I think I don't think that Olof Palme in the international arena had that much influence that he would be targeted by a group like that. But as you suggest, you know, there are an awful lot of crazy people around who do things without any rational planning or reasoning. So, but that's just my personal opinion.
I haven't heard evidence pointing to a very careful, elaborate, expensive conspiracy, which usually can be picked up by evidence that the police would become aware of activities that suggest this is in the making. They usually catch wind of that, and it's not easy to have a large conspiracy without there being some type of evidence of it that shows up. And it would take a great deal of planning. It would take around-the-clock surveillance with multiple teams of people to be able to know that the Prime Minister was going out that night and taking this route afterwards. You know, one couldn't leave it to chance if one's highly invested in doing this well for some important purpose. It is nearly impossible to keep a conspiracy quiet if it involves more than two people. In the United States, a very large proportion of arrests for all types of violent crimes is made because of informants who get very little benefit. They just get owed a favor from the police by coming forward. People will sell their mothers for $5,000, and they will surely sell a co-conspirator for the kind of money at stake here.
One thing, you've always been generous, and I say God bless Sweden for this, toward exiles, toward exile communities. Exile is a very cruel experience. It really tears you up. You watch our exiles here from Cuba and places like that, and they can barely hold themselves together because they're so full of emotion. But I think if you assume it might have been foreign elements, my guess would be that it was individual acts of foreign elements who couldn't contain their own frustrations, who were living in Sweden and to whom Sweden's role seemed very significant. But if they had been back home where the trouble was, Sweden's role wouldn't have seemed very significant to them. And the probability that leadership from wherever they came, whether it was Southern Africa or Central America or the Middle East or wherever, the probability that leadership was that involved, that concerned about Swedish activity, is very, very remote, I think, realistically.
If they say a tree is a tree, don't believe them. Don't believe anything they tell you, anything they swear to, anything they show you. Don't believe them.
Salvador Allende, Orlando Letelier, Rodrigo Rojas, Marta Ugarte, José Toá, General Carlos Prats, Alberto Bachelet, Carmen Bueno, Pablo Neruda, Víctor Jara, Reinalda del Carmen Pereira, José Carrasco, Carlos Lorca, José Manuel Parada.
It's very strange. Every time we have somebody that wants social change, that person is assassinated or shot by a crazy person, or there's an accident. They don't seem to die of natural causes anymore.
Isabels make, Orlando, var chilensk ambassadör i Washington och efter militärkuppen en aktiv juntamotståndare. En bilbomb 1976 ändade hans liv. I bilen satt också hans medhjälpare Ronnie Moffitt. Chilejuntan lät mörda flera av sina motståndare utomlands med hjälp av grupper nära Wackel. Organisatör var Michael Townley, som ett halvår tidigare hade försökt mörda också Olof Palme.
He did not give public information on any other crimes but the ones that had to do with the Letelier Moffitt. But he did speak with many people, and a lot of information has been put together. He is free with a different name. I don't know where he lives. I know he lives in this country. How do I feel about it? A little uneasy. It's not only my uneasiness, but I have 3 sons that live in this country also. We don't know where Michael Townley lives. We don't know if he has changed his views, because when the judge in the trial asked him in 1979, do you repent of having killed Mr. Letelier and Miss Moffitt? He said, of course not. I was a soldier, he was a soldier, we were in war.
I'm going to make myself before your memory. Long as I live, your joy will show in me. And every child I sing your name, so that they won't forget you. I'm going to bring on you horizon. You may not hold
if it was the first time, there is a pattern. Too many people of the stature of Olof Palme have been killed. So it is very difficult for me to believe that it was just at random. It was somebody that wanted to kill a prime minister. Because when that happens, like with the young person that tried to kill President Reagan here, they do it because they want the credit. When you do that, it's because you need attention. But for a person to do that, a disturbed person to do that, and not taking the credit, then it's something very different.
Even, I think even with John Kennedy's assassination, which was so stunning to our whole society, and I happen to believe that the Warren Commission very probably came up with the answer. I will always have doubts, as all Americans will. But we create Lee Harvey Oswald. We create this extremism and isolation of individuals and antagonism. And then we reap the whirlwind from it.
In the United States, where research has been done, and in Denmark, where other research has been done on this, about 5% of adult males living in cities have a condition that we here call antisocial personality disorder. We used to call it sociopath, and before that, psychopath, and before that, the whole world knew it as evil. Such people have in common a biological fearlessness that makes them not experience the anxiety that a normal person experiences as they're waiting to do something bad. Among the assassins, it's been more common to find people who have different problems with their personality, who have not been career criminals, but rather who have been loners, who have not had friends, in fact would be incapable of a conspiracy, though they might wish they could conspire or even draw out their plans for a conspiracy. They can't do it because they can't relate to other people. They develop the plan in fantasy, and they may have had the fantasy many times over. They may have been preoccupied for years with the idea of doing such a thing, and then seize the first opportunity to do so.
We always seek, it's fascinating to watch, alien explanations for our grief. I can remember when Martin Luther King was murdered, you could determine an individual or an organization's bias by who they were claiming did it. The FBI immediately claimed the Soviet Union did it, and they had a name. Eric Stavro Galt had come into Mobile, Alabama on a freighter and come up. And of course, there was absolutely nothing to it, absolutely nothing to it. Blacks thought the Ku Klux Klan must have done it. Whites thought black radicals in Mississippi and Tennessee in the South must have done it. You could find their prejudice, and today you still find yearnings for an alien explanation. You don't want to believe that it was some sickness or individual madness that could affect the destiny of all of us by killing inspired leadership. But overwhelmingly here, when you examine, take particularly Dr. King's murder, you see that racism has been so virulent, that there's so many thousands of people that would do it if they could, that perhaps this is a more important observation than the possibility that some outside influence or some isolated radicalism caused it.
Varför mördades Olof Palme? Många olika förklaringar på Palmemordet har slagit rot i det svenska folkhemmet. Nästan ett slags folksagor, ungefär som vid Kennedy-mordet. Om nu sanningen skulle komma fram, förmår den då att stilla våra tvivel? Eller kommer vi att ha kvar myter om mordet för alltid?